so I wanted to continue my tier list on the corporations in Terraforming Mars. Now, if you want full details on how the rules work, please watch the first video. Link should be up there, where I rank these 4 corporations already here. But to give you a quick summary, I'm gonna be ranking all the corporations eventually. I'm doing them by parts. So the base game I decided to break into 3 groups of 4. I did the terraformers last time. I'm gonna do the metals, these 4 here, this time, and then I'll continue chronologically pretty much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rank them first on the base game, and then I will move them depending on how they moved, in my opinion, with each added expansion, again chronologically. Okay, and let's begin. And I think Mining Guild was sort of high combo potential when it started. Obviously there's a weakness, and that's the low starting capital, which is 30. Now you do have 10 more in 5 steel, which is 10 more, which steel cards are usually good early, and you start with production. The really awesome thing here is the bonus. Whenever you place on a tile that picks up either steel or titanium, you get a steel production. And then you also get to building tax, which on the base map is really good, because Mining Guild is the best corporation for builder. It's rare to not see them get it. They start with 25% of it just on the card. They will have an easy time playing steel cards because they have 5 steel, and they'll be producing 3 and 4 steel by the 2nd generation. And also a lot of the cards that play styles, which is what they want to do, are building tax. So it's rare that you see them lose builder. And Mayor is reachable for them. I mean, 3 cities is pretty expensive, but if they get a lot of steel production, energy cards and city cards most usually have building tax. So Mining Guild, for that reason, on the Tharsis map, I think it's high combo potential. You only need a few either building cards, which are really common, so it's not like you need a hand. And then you'll be sitting on 5-6 steel production for the rest of the game, and after that you just play a normal game, usually a ground game, so you need some plant prod later, but you don't need to worry too much about it earlier. It's just about income early, and yeah, I think it's a really solid one. Our Hellas and Elysium, I think, bumped it down to playable. And why is that? It's because you lose one of the big things, and that's the Builder and Mayor milestone, and there really wasn't a replacement for it. Like Hellas has Polar Explorer, but there's only 3 metal spot theirs, and they're not so good. Other than that, they don't really have anything for Mining Guild. And then Elysium really has nothing. Specialist, you don't want to do 10 steel, and everything else is kind of maybe Tycoon, but you start with a low capital. So really you went from a surefire milestone to aiming towards none mostly. So yeah, I think that bumped it down to playable. Venus didn't help. Venus probably puts it a little lower in the playable tier, and that's because it only has 3 building tax and 1 tile. And that tile is Gyropolis, which is pretty much unplayable early, maybe throughout the game. So yeah, definitely cemented it here in the playable. But then came Prelude, and as you saw in my last video with most corporations, Prelude just makes things better. And Prelude added 6 Preludes that place a tile, which to be able to do this for Mining Guild without paying anything early, like just for free and before anything happens in the game, is just too good. And so there's basically 3 oceans, 2 cities, and experimental forest, which is maybe the best one for them, because it lets them draw some cards that they can use in the ground game later. But in case you're wondering, with 6 preludes that place tiles out of the 35 original preludes, the chances of you getting at least 1 is 54.6%, and the chances of getting 2 or more is 12.8%. So you're almost guaranteed to get, not almost guaranteed, but you're more likely than not to get 1 and have a decent 1 in 8 chance to get 2. And since one of those is Great Aquifer, you might actually place 3 tiles before you start playing cards which would put your steel production at 4. And you don't even need to worry about cards in your hand, you just need a bunch of building tags. So definitely Prelude moves it up to high combo potential. Colonies, again, brings it a little lower. It has two tiles, one is the Ocean in Ice Colony, and one is the City in Spaceport. Both not great to play early, so yeah, Ice Moon Colony is not terrible, but Spaceport is definitely a horrible card to play early, even though it is a building tag. It also only has 3 building tags, like Venus, so I think it should bump it a little lower, but not enough to drop it off the high combo potential in Preludes. It doesn't really affect Preludes. And the other thing is like the colonies. Probably Pluto and Luna, like most, it's good, but also it's really good to have Ganymede for Mining Guild, because they really want plants to go with their ground game late in the game, and that's an easy way to get them. Finally, Turmoil. And Turmoil, I mean, it didn't add a lot of cards, but it added 2 great cards for when the Mars First is in play. Parliament Hall, which gives you a bunch of money production, which Mining Guild leads, and you can play this pretty early and you'll probably have a few tags, like playing it for 6 tags, and basically got slightly expensive sponsors. It's not bad, but if you manage to get to 9 tags, including that one, you get 3 productions, so it's like a acquired company, which is pretty good, and the other one's Martian Media Center, which gives you 2 production, which again you need, and a cheaper way to place a delegate, so it lets you dominate in the Senate, which is really good because the Senate has the Mars First party, which early you will want for its policy, but late you will really want just for the bonus. So you won't be placing that many tiles late, but early it's really good to get some extra steel from those tiles. Late you just want to get a bunch of money from your tiles, and also you'll want the greens in there eventually. So yeah, Mining Guild, stronger for Turmoil. I don't think it jumps up to this tier quite, just that starting capital is too low, so you do need some help. But there's just a lot to help it with Preludes, and when I draw it in Steam, I rarely not keep it. You usually get that Prelude, so yeah, it stays in high combo potential. Moving on to IC. So Interplanetary Cinematics, really strong in the base game. So it has the highest starting capital of all. If you count the steel, it's 70. It has a steel tag and a pretty cool effect. The effect doesn't go at all with the 20 steel or the steel tag. It's a little weird, but there are basically no building events. So that's the one thing to me that always kept it from being better. That this effect feels like it doesn't go there, but both things are solid separately. It doesn't really combo with itself. It's the second best one for builder after Mining Guild. I still think Mining Guild is stronger for builder. And so basically really good. I do think just like Mining Guild, the adding the boards made it weaker. Like on Elysium, it only has Legend, and I mean, you're not even guaranteed to get the 5 events. You just get a little advantage when you play it. And on Hellas, really nothing for it that helps it, because like things like diversifier events don't even have tags that count face up. So I would say it gets a little weaker with Hellas and Elysium, and even weaker with Venus. Again, the same thing as Man Guild. There are a few building tags, and there are some bad events. Most events just Terraform Venus and are quite expensive, so I'm gonna actually say that pushes it down here. And then Prelude. Did Prelude do much for IC? I don't think so. It's one of those rare cases where Prelude doesn't really do that much. Obviously, Donation would be one of the best ones, because you need money. Just like Mining Guild, you start with just 30, so having money early is pretty good for you. But yeah, what else? You really just need building tags, and there's no preload that draws them. Like things like Biolab draw you three, or Research Network, but they don't really guarantee anything building related or event related. So there's really not a lot of preloads that I could say give you synergy, just donation to like mitigate your weakness. And it's the only prelude that gives you something like that. Obviously, Allied Bank is good with anything, but even Business Empire, you can't play Business Empire. So, like, there's really those are the two main preludes I would say are good with IC. Um, so yeah, it's one of those rare ones that doesn't get a lot better with preludes. Then colonies. I can think about what colonies really help IC. It's a really good, like a flexible corp, so it might be some in the late game, like usually ground game Ganymede, or if you go for space events, Triton. But there's like really, because it's a flexible corp, I wouldn't say the colonies necessarily help it, and early you might not know where to go. It only entered building tags. Yeah, finally Turmoil. Again, there's no party that I would say, okay, this is Interplanetary Cinematics party. Uh, it's a weird combination of a flexible corporation that sort of needs a combo. It just many things could be the combo. Like you could get a bunch of steel cards, or you could get the air combo everyone knows with Media Group and optimal air braking. Both of those make I see a great corporation. But it's really hard to say how the expansions affect it. But basically, I think it goes lower with each expansion. None of the expansions really helped it, and that's mostly because it's like a two combo corporation, which ends up being kind of flexible. Okay, moving on. Phobolog. Now, when I started playing this game, I got a lot of things wrong. The one I didn't get wrong was this was the worst corporation in the game. Like as soon as I saw it, I knew. And don't get me wrong, it's really fun. To play, and especially if you get advanced alloys, it's a lot of fun. I played it a bunch of times. I think I lost most of them. But that 23 starting is a killer. It means you can basically you could keep 7 cards and not play anything except space tags, but you're usually going to keep 4 because you want to develop your MC income. So it really limits your starting hand. The other thing is that the 10 titanium, which ends up being equivalent to 40, but it's high, but there aren't that many space techs that are efficient or good early. Like, obviously, I think asteroid mining and IO mining industries are really good for Phobolog, and you can play them both in the. I mean, not both at the same time, but any of them in the first generation, you have enough money to do that. Or even something like immigration shuttles, which is not good or not the most efficient for most corporations, but the 5 income really helps Phobolog, and you can sink, I mean, it's most of your titanium, but it lets you buy a little more cards and actually play a game after that, but it's just too limited. It was the weakest by far in the base game, basically unplayable. The other thing is, like, if you see the Tharsis map, Phobolog has a chance basically on 0 milestones. It's not that it's not a clear one for any of them. It's that it's pretty much out of all 5. Like, if you think about it, you can keep maximum 4 cards if you want to play something. So you're out of planner. You're not playing building tags, not with the 7 that you have left and no tags. You're not going for plans, you're not getting Gardener, no chance you get Mayor. The best chance to get Mayor is playing Phobos Space Haven and Ganymede Colony, and then a standard project, and then you lose the game. And Terraformer, I mean, you can throw an asteroid, but you throw a giant ice asteroid, and that leaves you with 1 titanium, so you terraform 4, and now you're dead. So you're really out of all milestones. Like high player counts, you're out of all of them. In a 2-player game, you might do enough to get one of them eventually. But yeah, just horrible. By far the worst corporation in the base game. Hellas and Elysium didn't do much for it, honestly. Like, Hellas has Rim Settler, which, I mean, fine. And Elysium gave it Legend. And Hellas also gave Space Baron the awards, but it's not enough to pull it out. Venus did help a little. Venus has a lot of space tags, and it gives you way more options. Like most of the space tags terraform Venus, but there are some good things like Venus Way Station, and so that lets you diversify your strategy a little bit. There are very limited options in the base game for space tags early, but with Venus, there's a little more. You're still not great because terraforming Venus early is very expensive. But there are a few good space cards, so it did help a little, but then Prelude helped even more. Things like Loan, which I usually hate, take them with Phobolog. Donation, obviously great, and Allied Bank, obviously great. You can take Business Empire, but also Metals Company, really good because with Phobolog you really want to get the titanium income to keep using your bonus. So I think Prelude actually kind of makes Phobolog playable. But I wasn't sure that was enough until Colonies. And the thing about Colonies is it actually helps Phobolog a lot. First of all, you can use your titanium to trade. It's not the best thing. You'd rather use energy, but it's one use for your titanium you have early if you don't have anything else. It hurts a little more because you're paying 12 instead of 9 technically because your titanium is worth 4, but you really need your MC for other things, so you might do it anyway. The other thing, it had a lot more space tags and a lot of good early game space tags. Things like Ring Fighters, trading colonies, really good. You can place a colony with something like interstellar colony ship, and then just trade to the colonies for titanium and exploit that a little bit. Iceman colony also really good. So it actually gives Phobolog something to do early, like with that income that sort of levels it with other corporations. And with colonies, you can also get titanium more reliably because of Tritons. Colony that I don't see a lot of players hit. So when Triton gets high, you get it and you use your bonus. And I think actually that moves Phobolog up one tier, puts it above Helion. I think colonies, the combination of Brilliant and colonies basically move it up here. And then finally Turmoil, it doesn't really do much, like Unity helps as one of the parties, but really there's a lot less space tag, it doesn't affect Phobolog that much. You probably go for Unity because you're good with Venus, you're good with Jovians, and you're not good at anything else really. So yeah, I think Colonies and Prelude kind of save it from this unplayable status. Anything else, it really unplayable. Even the Steam status right now, I would say unplayable. Last but not least, Saturn Systems. I would say Saturn Systems started as playable. Now, a lot of people tend to think that Saturn Systems really needs a hand because, there's only 12 Jovians in the base game and you need Jovians to make it good, but that's not true at all. Think of Saturn Systems as a corporation that starts with an average amount of MC, 42, and for production. You get 1 titanium, and because you play your tag, you get 1 mega credit production to start with, but so that's the highest production of any corporation in the base game, and I think it's the highest of all until Polyphemus came along, which produces 5. So it's really good actually to start with 4 production, and you don't need to go Jovian. Like, you could use that just for asteroids and just build any game from that. It's actually a really flexible corporation, contrary to what most people think, which is just, you have to play the Jovians. And you don't. You start with 4, you can go for a terraforming strategy, you just have a little income, and something that helps you throw asteroids. I mean, obviously you need a terraforming hand, but if you get terraforming cards in your hand, you can play Saturn Systems. You couldn't do that with Phobolog, or even with IC or Mining Guild. These are a little more flexible, but you want more of a ground game and not so much of a terraforming game. So yeah, it's really flexible. Obviously, the Jovian thing is the best thing to do, but the thing is, people are gonna block it, which is if you think about it, it's a bit of an advantage because most people expect you to just go for Jovians, and the second you put Saturn down, they're gonna be blocking Jovians. And the good thing when they're blocking Jovians is that they're usually sending you the best card in their draft, because they thought the Jovian was better for you. But they're sending you the best card in your draft, and once you take that, you send them to garbage back. And really, the blocking really screws with other players more than it screws with you, and you don't even have to go Jovian, or you might even get enough Jovians for somewhere else. And your ability also keeps them from playing Jovian, so they're blocking cards that they're not even playing, and if they play, they do help you. So this is a really playable corp. It's just that the effect, it's not gonna give you that much. You start with 4, but you might not get that much from the effect, like say a Tharsis. Um, and the starting capital is just average. That's why it's not higher. But this is not a combo corp. It's in my opinion, a flexible corp, like which is counterintuitive. I know, but I think it's true. One of the weaknesses is that it's not really going for any of the milestones. Unlike Phobolog, not that it can't go. You can definitely go for one eventually. You can go for Planner, for example. I usually do. Because you do one card draw to draw more Jovians if that's the main thing you're doing. But you're not really sent to one. But that does change with Hellas and Elysium. So Hellas made it a lot better. Hellas introduced Ring Settler and Space Baron on the awards, and Elysium probably Diversifier is the best thing for it, but not as good as Hellas. Hellas really is the one that helps. It doesn't move it to me into high combo potential, but it does make it pretty good here. Next up came Venus, and there's only 2 Jovians in Venus, and they're kind of late game Jovians. One needs 3 Venus tags to draw a card, the other one is just a point Jovian that you want to play late. And then there's a bunch of Venus stuff. So there are a lot of space cards, but like I said, they're not that good. So I don't actually think Venus help that much for Saturn Systems, but because it's a flexible corp, it doesn't really care. Preludes, yeah, Preludes. So it added 2 Preludes that have a Jovian tag on it, IO Research Outpost and Galilean Mining. I think IO Research Outpost makes you pay too much for the tags. 1 titanium production and 1 tag is probably not enough, and 1 card, sorry, to justify as tax, but with Saturn Systems, because you also get 1 income, is kind of decent. If you think about it, Metals Company, one of the best. It also has a steel production, but here you're getting a card and you're getting a science tag, so which you need for your card draw if you're going for Jovians. And then Galilean Mining, 2 titanium is really good, but it might be overkill. So I don't really like a lot of preludes that to go with this. It's really gonna depend more on your starting hand, and you gotta sort of adapt to that more than get the preludes that are good for the corporation. But definitely the Jovians are a little better. They're both to me average. Maybe IO Research Outpost more on the weak side, but Saturn System makes them a little better, though. It doesn't get a huge bump from Prelude, though, so meh. But then came Colonies, and if you think Prelude makes it slightly weaker, then Colonies makes it a lot stronger. First of all, it adds a shitload. It adds, I think, 7 Jovian cards, which really bumps up the density of Jovian cards. But it also adds really good Jovian cards and a lot of really good space tags that I already mentioned with Phobolog, that are early cards that, thanks to your titanium production, you can play. And also you can use titanium to trade, even though that's not ideal. And it's also more likely that other players play Jovian tags just because a lot of them are good in colonies, and now there's more, which can give you more income, and it also makes them block more. So yeah, I mean, even though you're never, I want to emphasize that you're never think that you can only do Jovians with these. Having more Jovians is better because it makes players block and it makes you more dangerous to really dangerous combos. Easy enough to move it to high combo potential? No. like you're not like the one thing you can do with it is the one combo you can think here is just get all the multipliers, but you can do that with any corp. This one just gives you one victory point more for each one and a little more income, but you're gonna play those multipliers at the end, most of them anyway, so the income doesn't matter that much. You might play a few other Jovians early, so it combos a little well, but it's not a huge deal. The Jovian thing is not a huge deal. And if more players realize this, it might actually bump it down because they won't block, and I love when they block the Jovians with this corporation. Finally, Turmoil. Yeah, Unity helps. I mean, it makes your Titanium better, your tag, you have already one of the tags, and it definitely synergizes with Venus and Earth. So Unity helps, and Science helps because you don't need to play a lot of Science tags to draw cards, and you do want cards if you want to find some more Jovians, which is good with it, but not the only thing you can do. I've said that 20 times. So yeah, I think it just starts playable and stays playable. Colonies probably moves it to the top of playable. The rest don't really affect it much, I guess. The Hellas map with Rim Satar is the other thing that's really big for it. Because I mean, you probably have another Jovian tag if you're keeping it. So that it's 2/3 of the way. Again, you don't even need that in my opinion, but yeah, I think really solid. So yeah, that's it for the metals corporations. Next up, I'll be doing the last three, the last four, the flexible ones. And yeah, let me know what you think, and see you next time.